I never thought betrayal would come from the one I trusted most. We had shared secrets, tears, and endless late-night talks about the future, but dreams can turn toxic when envy brews in silence. I still remember the morning I learned that Emily, my so-called best friend, had stolen everything I had worked for. The scholarship that was supposed to be mine, the one I poured my soul into, was announced publicly as her victory. My chest tightened as her name echoed through the auditorium, applause washing over her while I sat frozen. She looked back at me, her smile sharp, her eyes holding that flash of triumph I had never seen before. Jacob whispered, "She knew, didn't she?" And I nodded, rage swallowing my grief. The betrayal was too sharp to process. My dreams weren't just taken, they were ripped from me by the person I trusted most. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just about loss. It was war, and wars are never fought cleanly. When the ceremony ended, people rushed to congratulate Emily. Their cheers sounded like nails scraping against my skin. She basked in their praise, her arms outstretched like she was some kind of savior. My heart pounded louder than the claps. Jacob muttered, "She played you," and I could only nod. I walked outside into the cold air, hoping it would numb the storm inside me. But anger doesn't fade with fresh air. It sharpens, cuts deeper. Every laugh from behind the auditorium doors felt like mockery aimed at me. The girl I once called my sister had become my enemy. And I realized something chilling. If Emily could take what was mine once, she would do it again. I whispered to myself, "Never again." That vow wasn't fragile. It was steel. Later that night, I sat on my bed staring at my laptop. Emily's smiling face lit up my feed, tagged in endless congratulatory posts. Every comment praising her brilliance felt like poison. My stomach churned. The screen reflected back at me, not just her picture, but my own hollow eyes. My mother knocked, asking softly if I was okay. I said, "I'm fine," though the lie tasted bitter. Rage and hurt sat heavy in my chest. I realized I had two choices: crumble under the weight of betrayal, or rise from it stronger. And I swore that night, through clenched teeth, that I would rise. The next morning, campus buzzed with Emily's victory. Posters of her smiling face decorated hallways. I walked through the crowd, their whispers crawling up my spine. Someone said she deserved it, and another added, "She's unstoppable." My fists clenched. Emily stood near the library steps, surrounded by admirers, soaking in her glory. Her eyes caught mine briefly, and for the first time, she didn't look away. That silent stare burned deeper than any insult. She wanted me to know she had won, but I refused to be her victim. Deep inside, something cold awakened. This was no longer about a scholarship. It was about reclaiming my dignity. That evening, Jacob found me at the cafe near campus. He looked worried, setting his coffee down with a sigh. "You can't let this eat you alive," he said, searching my face. I forced a smile, but my voice trembled. "She stole my dream, Jacob." His silence was heavier than any words. I looked out the window, the city lights blurring against the glass. Revenge wasn't just a thought anymore. It was a fire roaring inside me. Jacob finally whispered, "Be careful." But careful was no longer an option. Not when the person I once loved like a sister turned into my greatest enemy. The week after the ceremony was torture. Everywhere I turned, Emily's face stared back at me from posters, headlines, and social feeds. The scholarship committee praised her brilliance while I disappeared into shadows. My professors barely noticed me in class, and my friends avoided the heavy silence that followed me. Jacob tried to cheer me up, but his words slipped past me like water on glass. At night, I stared at the ceiling, the glow of my phone buzzing with Emily's endless updates. "Hard work pays off," she wrote, her caption burning into my eyes. Hard work? No. Theft pays off. That truth struck me like a blade. My rage thickened into something sharper, something alive. I whispered in the dark, "This is not the end." Walking across campus felt like walking through enemy territory. Whispers followed me, though no one dared speak directly. I caught fragments. Jealous. She lost. Emily earned it. Their voices pierced like glass. I clenched my jaw and kept walking. My hands shook with every step past those smug stares. Emily laughed nearby, her crowd circling her like moths to fire. I wondered how long she had planned this betrayal. Did she smile at me while plotting to steal what I bled for? Rage tightened in my chest, but under it was hurt, sharp and raw. I realized the girl I once loved like a sister was gone forever. All that remained was my enemy. Jacob cornered me in the library. He leaned across the table, eyes sharp with concern. "You can't let her win twice," he said. His words hung heavy, but my silence was louder. I traced circles on my notebook, heart pounding. He whispered again, "Revenge will consume you." I looked up, meeting his gaze. My voice cracked but held steel. She already consumed me. Jacob looked away, guilt written on his face. I knew he wanted to protect me, but protection was useless now. What I needed was resolve. That moment, I felt it solidify inside me. Emily had declared war, and I wasn't backing down. I avoided Emily, but fate had other plans. At the cafe near campus, she walked in with her usual entourage. My stomach dropped as her laughter filled the room. She spotted me instantly, her smirk carving across the air. For a second, silence held us both, and then she raised her cup in a mock toast. I clenched my teeth, heat rising to my face. My coffee turned bitter on my tongue. She leaned close to one of her friends, whispering something that made them burst out laughing. My blood boiled. I wanted to scream, but I swallowed the fire. One day I told myself her smirk would vanish. That night, the storm finally broke. I stood at the mirror, staring into my own eyes, barely recognizing the reflection. "She took everything," I whispered, my breath fogging the glass. My voice cracked, but rage steadied me. I pulled out my old scholarship notes, the ones Emily had stolen pieces from. Page by page, I studied them, rage fueling my focus. Jacob texted begging me to sleep, but I ignored him. This wasn't about rest. This was about survival. My heart pounded as I muttered, "She thinks she won. She has no idea what's coming." That night, Sarah died. What rose in her place was someone unbreakable. Days turned into weeks, and whispers never faded. My pain transformed into something sharper, something that demanded action. In the quiet of the library basement, I mapped my revenge like a general preparing for war. My pen scratched across the page with furious focus. The first step was reclaiming the work Emily had stolen piece by piece, rebuilding what she had broken. Rage fueled me, but doubt clawed at the edges of my mind. Was I strong enough to face her? I shook off the thought. Jacob's voice haunted me, warning that vengeance consumes. But I was already consumed. There was no turning back. This wasn't about winning anymore. It was survival, and survival meant fighting back. One evening, a stranger approached me outside the library. He was older, with sharp eyes and a weathered face. "You're chasing something dangerous," he said, his voice low. I frowned, ready to brush him off, but his words cut deeper than they should. "You'll lose yourself if you don't tread carefully." I realized this was the mentor Jacob had once mentioned, a man who'd lived through betrayal. My instinct told me to walk away, yet something about his presence anchored me. His scars weren't just on his skin. They were carved into his gaze. "Do you want to destroy her?" he asked, "or save yourself?" I didn't answer. My silence was already the answer. I avoided him for days, yet his words echoed in my mind. The way he carried himself, the calm authority, unsettled me. Meanwhile, Emily thrived in her stolen glory, flaunting her new connections. Every time she laughed in the courtyard, I felt that spark of fury ignite again. The mentor's question haunted me, "Destroy her or save yourself?" I thought I knew the answer, but doubt gnawed at me. My heart screamed for vengeance, but my mind whispered warnings. One night, I whispered to my reflection. I'll never let her win again. The girl in the mirror didn't flinch. She looked ready. Jacob noticed the change in me. "You're colder," he said one afternoon at the cafe. He wasn't wrong. My laughs came less easily, my silences heavier. He reached across the table, his hand brushing mine, his voice quiet. "Don't lose yourself in this." I pulled my hand back, staring at him. I already lost myself the day she betrayed me. His shoulders sank, eyes filled with sadness. He wanted the old me, but she was gone. Every day I felt more steel in my bones, more fire in my chest. Emily had forged a new version of me, and I wasn't sure Jacob liked who I was becoming. That night, I found myself back near the library where I had met the mentor. He was waiting, as if he knew I'd return. "You've decided," he said softly. I nodded, unable to speak the words. His gaze hardened. "If you walk this path, there's no return. Vengeance doesn't give back what was stolen. It only takes more." His warning hung in the air like smoke. I clenched my fists, my voice steady for the first time. "She took my dream. Now I'll take hers." He studied me, then finally nodded. Not in approval, but in resignation. The storm inside me was no longer gathering. It was ready to strike. The campus corridors echoed with whispers of new opportunities. Emily's name filled every conversation, her fame climbing while mine sank deeper into silence. But beneath the applause, I noticed cracks. Teachers spoke of inconsistencies in her work, hints that something didn't add up. My heart pounded each time I overheard doubt ripple through the crowd. She still wore her polished smile, but I recognized the tightness in her jaw, the way her eyes darted when questioned. For the first time I saw not just my betrayer, but someone desperate to keep her mask intact. The mentor's voice haunted me. "Expose lies, don't become one." And I knew my battle wasn't to fight her openly, but to peel away her mask until everyone saw the deceiver beneath. Jacob cornered me after class, frustration burning in his eyes. "You're obsessing," he said, voice low but firm. I clenched my notes tighter, refusing to meet his gaze. "She stole everything. I can't just walk away." He shook his head. "This isn't you, Sarah." His words stung because they were true. I was changing, and maybe not for the better. But what choice did I have? Every day, I saw Emily's smirk. Every day I heard her laugh at something I once dreamed of. "If you won't help me," I whispered, "then stay out of my way." His expression fell, disappointment heavy. For the first time, I saw fear in Jacob's eyes. Not of Emily, but of me. That evening, I discovered Emily's enforcer, Mark. He was older than us, a looming shadow who followed her like a loyal guard dog. I spotted him outside the library, watching me with cold eyes. His presence was a threat without words. My skin prickled, but I forced myself not to flinch. If Emily thought intimidation would break me, she was wrong. Still, the weight of his gaze followed me long after I left. He wasn't just protection. He was a warning. The mentor's advice rang in my ears. The deeper you go, the more dangerous it becomes. But I refused to retreat. Every enemy she built only sharpened my resolve to dismantle her empire. The mentor found me again, his expression grave. "You've drawn their attention," he warned, eyes scanning the shadows. I stiffened, pretending I wasn't afraid. "Good," I said, voice sharp. He frowned. Pride blinds quicker than anger. His words cut, but I swallowed them. "They've taken enough from me. I won't stop." He sighed, stepping closer, his tone softer. "Then at least be prepared. Know the cost." His warning lingered like smoke, wrapping around my thoughts. That night, sleep never came. Instead, I replayed every moment with Emily, every smile laced with venom. My heart pounded with a single truth. The storm was no longer gathering. It was here. The next day, I faced Emily alone. She was radiant as ever, her entourage buzzing with admiration. But when her eyes locked on mine, the facade flickered. "You look tired," she said, voice sweet but sharp. I smiled. A smile that wasn't mine anymore. Funny, I was about to say the same. The crowd around her laughed, but her expression tightened. For the first time I saw her mask slip, if only for a second. That second was mine. That second was power. I walked away before she could recover, heart pounding, adrenaline burning in my veins. The war lines had been drawn. The rumors spread quickly. Whispers of Emily's inconsistencies turned into louder doubts. Professors questioned her sources. Students whispered about plagiarism. I felt a strange satisfaction, but also fear. This wasn't my doing. It was her own cracks splitting open. Yet the timing felt too perfect. One evening, Jacob slammed a folder on my desk. "Look at this," he said. Inside were documents, proof of Emily copying parts of my work. My chest tightened as I traced the words. Evidence. The truth in ink. "Where did you get this?" I asked. Jacob hesitated, then said, "Someone wants you to win." My heart raced. Someone else was playing this game, and I didn't know if they were ally or enemy. I confronted the mentor, folder clutched tightly in my hand. "This was you," I accused, my voice trembling. He studied me in silence, then nodded slightly. "I gave you a weapon. What you do with it decides who you become." My throat tightened. "Why me? Why help me?" His eyes darkened. "Because I once destroyed myself chasing revenge. I won't let her destroy you too." His confession shook me. Was he saving me, or using me? His scars whispered of battles lost long ago, yet his eyes demanded I choose differently. My grip on the folder tightened. Justice or destruction, my choice would decide the outcome. Emily's world began to shake. Whispers turned into accusations. Professors pulled her aside, demanding explanations. I watched from a distance as her polished confidence cracked. Her laughter came less easily, her entourage thinning. Yet her eyes burned whenever they landed on me, fury and fear colliding. She knew I was behind it, even if I hadn't lit the fire. For the first time, she looked vulnerable. But instead of satisfaction, unease filled me. The mentor's words echoed, "Vengeance doesn't give back what was stolen. It only takes more." I wondered if I was about to lose myself entirely. Jacob found me again, desperation in his eyes. "End this, Sarah. Please." His voice cracked, his hand gripping mine across the table. I stared at him, feeling the weight of everything pressing down. "She deserves it," I whispered. His grip tightened. "And what do you deserve? To become her?" His words sliced through me. For the first time, I wondered if revenge was transforming me into the very thing I hated. My heart raced, torn between rage and reason. Jacob's eyes pleaded, his voice shaking. "You're better than her, prove it." I had no answer, only silence thick with the war inside me. The twist came without warning. A message slipped under my dorm door, anonymous but powerful. Inside was proof Emily hadn't just stolen from me, but from others before me. Names, projects, dreams, all devoured by her ambition. My chest burned as I read each page. She wasn't just my betrayer, she was a predator, leaving ruins in her wake. My hands shook, fury and horror colliding. Whoever had sent this wanted me to use it, to finish her once and for all. But the question clawed at me, was I exposing her for justice, or destroying her for revenge? The line blurred until I couldn't see it anymore. The tension reached its breaking point. Emily stormed toward me outside the auditorium, eyes blazing. "You think you've won," she hissed, her voice sharp enough to cut. I stood my ground, heart pounding but face calm. "You built your throne on lies," I replied, each word heavy with truth. Students gathered around us, sensing blood in the water. Emily's smile faltered, her mask slipping. For the first time, her voice cracked. "You don't know what it takes to survive." I leaned closer, whispering so only she could hear, "No, Emily, I know exactly what it takes." The silence that followed was louder than applause. The war had finally come to the surface. Professors intervened, demanding explanations. Emily's voice trembled as she defended herself, but the evidence had already spread. Jacob stood beside me, his presence steady though his eyes betrayed fear of how far I'd go. "This is it," he whispered, but I felt no victory, only fire. Emily turned to me, her voice breaking. "You think they'll believe you over me?" I raised the folder, the truth heavy in my hands. "They already do." Gasps echoed around us as pages fluttered in the wind. For the first time, the power shifted completely. But as her face paled, a sharp pain stabbed my chest. Was this justice or revenge masquerading as truth? Mark, Emily's enforcer, stepped forward, blocking my path. His shadow loomed over me, fists clenched, ready to silence the storm. For a moment, fear froze me. Then his gaze shifted, something soft flickering in his eyes. "She lied to me too," he muttered, his voice low. Emily gasped, spinning toward him. "Don't you dare," she snarled, but Mark's expression hardened. "I was loyal, and you used me." He stepped aside, no longer her shield, but her betrayer. That crack in her fortress shattered the illusion. For the first time, Emily stood alone, stripped of her defenses. The predator had become prey. The professors announced a formal inquiry. Emily's world crumbled before her eyes. She lunged at me, voice breaking. "You don't deserve anything." Students recoiled at her desperation, the mask fully shattered. I didn't flinch. "I deserved better than you." The silence that followed felt final, like a bell tolling for her end. Jacob pulled me back as Emily collapsed into a chair, her hands trembling. The crowd no longer applauded her. Their whispers were knives, cutting deeper than my vengeance ever could. For the first time, I felt something strange. Not victory, not satisfaction. Just emptiness. That night, Jacob found me staring out the dorm window. The city lights blurred, but my mind was clear. "You did it," he said softly. I shook my head. "No." She destroyed herself. I just handed her the mirror. His hand rested on my shoulder, warm against the cold glass. "Don't let her define you anymore," he whispered. For the first time, his words didn't sound like warnings, but hope. Yet deep inside, I knew the scars of betrayal never fade completely. Emily had lost, but the cost of my victory was carved into me. The war was over. But I would never be the same. The inquiry stripped Emily of her scholarship. Headlines shifted from praise to scandal. Her name once adorned posters, now whispered in shame. I watched from afar, not with joy, but with quiet disbelief. I had dreamed of this moment, but standing in its shadow, I felt no triumph. Only silence. Jacob asked if I felt better. I shook my head, my voice hollow. "No, but I feel free." The mentor's words lingered. "Vengeance never heals, only burns." Maybe I hadn't healed, but at least the fire inside me no longer raged. I could breathe again. And sometimes, breathing is enough. I visited the mentor one last time. He watched me with weary eyes, as though measuring the scars I carried. "You've survived," he said simply. I nodded, though survival felt more like fragments than wholeness. "What now?" I asked. His lips curled into the faintest smile. "Now you live." His simplicity was grounding, pulling me back from the storm that had defined my every breath. I realized revenge hadn't rebuilt me. It had only cleared the ruins, leaving me space to start again. For the first time in months, I didn't feel chained to Emily. I felt ready to be me again. Emily disappeared from campus soon after. Rumors spoke of her moving to another city, but no one cared enough to know the truth. Her absence was a silence I had longed for, but it didn't erase the past. Sometimes, late at night, I still heard her laughter echo in my memory. Betrayal leaves ghosts that linger. Yet, instead of rage, I now felt a strange pity. She had stolen dreams, but in the end, she lost herself. And I realized that was the cruelest punishment of all. I whispered into the night, "Goodbye, Emily," and for the first time I meant it. Jacob stayed by my side through it all. One evening we sat on the rooftop, city lights sparkling below us. "Do you regret it?" he asked gently. I thought for a long moment. "No," I whispered. "I regret trusting her, but I don't regret ending it." His hand brushed mine, steady and warm. For the first time I allowed myself to smile, not with triumph, but with relief. The storm was behind me, and in its ruins I found something unexpected: hope. Jacob's eyes caught mine, filled with quiet faith. Maybe betrayal had broken me, but it hadn't destroyed me. The final morning came with golden light spilling through my window. I knew. I stood before the mirror, the same one where I once whispered vengeance. Now, I whispered something else. I'm free. My reflection no longer looked hollow. My eyes no longer burned with rage, but with clarity. Emily had taken my dream, but she hadn't taken me. I was still here, stronger, punching, sharper, unbroken. As I walked out into the world, I carried no weapons, no rage. Only the quiet strength of someone who had faced betrayal and survived. And that survival was my true victory.